I am myself one of these women that don't want a soulmate.
Yeah.
And before being on the path, I've been with a lot of different men. And since I joined the path, I just shut down.
Yeah.
And even sex, like everything.
Yeah.
And I feel how it's really hard. I feel today a lot of pain everywhere here, and I even wrote my questions because I cannot connect to them. But for me, there is a guy in France that he really triggered me a lot, and I've got a lot of anger towards him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like my mind saying I don't want to be with him, and at the same time, sometimes I'm next to him and I cannot move. I just want to stay, and my mind saying no, go away.
So do you feel you know who your soulmate is? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. When I had the thought it could be,
Yeah.
it totally repulsed me,
Yeah.
and I just like, oh. And one day he asked me, and he say, have you ever thought we could be soulmate? And I said, oh, no way. So I push him away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes when I'm next to him, I don't know, I just feel paralyzed. And I just want to stay, but my mind's saying, you need to go away. It's really strange. I don't really know how to explain it.
Yep, Mary can understand many of those emotions.
Yep.
And so I was feeling more and more things. I try to open to this. I want to spend time with him and see what's happened.
Yeah.
And someone said to me, well, because he doesn't really match my demands and expectations, he's not really the guy I'd like my soulmate to be. And at the same time, I really like him as a person, but not as my soulmate.
Yeah.
And last week someone said to me, but maybe you think he's your soulmate, you have this feeling because he's very sensitive and he's very shy and he's very but at the same time I'm very emotional with him. And what Gabriela said, I was thinking maybe she's right. Maybe I actually, not in my mind but in my soul, attracting to him because he's very sensitive. And then we have this false belief that our soulmate could be sensitive. That's what the girl said. And I was feeling maybe it's a false belief again. And I'm really confused. And I was...
So how would you resolve that question, Nina?
See, can you see you're getting very intellectual about and very confused about something that you could easily investigate without having to have sex with the man. You could easily investigate all of these issues if you chose to be open and just let yourself feel your feelings on the issue. You see, quite often what we do is we do the opposite to that. You know, we want all of our, what in Australia the saying is our T's crossed and our I's dotted. I don't know what the saying is in Europe, but basically we want everything to be perfect before we engage something. But the problem is that our idea of perfection is not God's creation of perfection for us. It's just our idea from our childhood that is the idea of perfection. And so, yes, you may feel that you love to have a sensitive man, but let's look at the men you have chosen up to this point in terms of your relationships. Have many of them been sensitive men?
Well, sensitive, but really not like him. Really different. Different. I don't know how to explain. But
okay, and this particular man, you don't actually feel a sexual attraction to him at this point.
No.
You just want to be friends, but you can't contemplate not being friends, which is interesting in itself.
Yeah, and especially when I feel the remorse about how I'm angry with him. My grief is bigger than other men. That's what I'm feeling. Why that I feel a lot of grief around being angry with him.
Yep. So this is the things to look at and be sensitive about. The fact is, something very strange is going on around here. Something strange going on around here. And the strange thing is that this is very different than your normal attractions and normal type of relationships that you've had in the past with men, is it not?
Yeah.
So it's worth investigation just from that perspective, isn't it?
Okay.
Right? And why do you have this unreasoning anger with him? Because that's what it feels like, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like...
It's an anger you can't sort of explain.
It's like rage,
Yeah.
big rage. Yeah.
Okay. So why is there this very large rage with this guy that but you still feel like you have to be friends with? So there is a lot of contrary emotions. And as we go through this discussion, you'll see that actually soulmate attractions, which eventually result in sexual attraction between just you and one other person, are very much like this at times, where there are a lot of contrary emotions that are going on between the two halves, because we're going to feel the injury of our partner, and our partner is going to feel our injuries. Our soul partner is going to feel our injuries more intensely than any other person, and we're going to feel their injuries more intensely than any other person. And unless we're both focused on dealing with those particular injuries, we are not going to join unless we have a deep desire to be humble, a deep desire to really feel every emotion that we feel.
And can I make a suggestion, Nina?
Yes,
At the
please.
moment, you would like to know.
Yeah.
Before you investigate, you would like to know, one way or the other. And the truth is, on this path, as we get to know God, as we get to know ourselves, there's many unknowns. And we have to get used to that. We have to get used to the fact that I'm not going to know everything before I step into whatever it is I'm stepping into. But I would keep in mind two questions. How can I explore this possibility lovingly? And how can I purify my soulmate desire? Because a pure soulmate desire, like we talked about before, we're going to know. Out of the 100 guys in front of us, we're going to go, that's the guy and I know it. Because there's a purity in my desire. It's not based on my injuries, helping me avoid my injuries.
Can I point out something? One thing I loved about Mary's attitude when she met me was, I did not tell her that she was my soulmate, actually. I want to correct what might have been a suggestion earlier. Friends of mine told Mary that I felt Mary was my soulmate. Now, Mary, when she heard that, she got told it actually by her parents. So my friends told her parents, and her parents told Mary. Now, when Mary was told that, she had a lot of tumultuous type of feelings come up, similar to the kind of feelings you're feeling, confusion, feelings she didn't understand.
Not at all. I've met him twice, hardly spoken. The second time I got very unreasonably rageful, couldn't understand why. And then he left. I had other things on my mind, on my life, and I was told, and immediately I couldn't sleep or eat for 2 weeks.
Now, one thing I liked about what Mary did was she was open enough to explore or investigate in a loving manner, although perhaps at times it wasn't that loving, but to explore or investigate the potential of this particular thing. And the reason why she was open is she felt like she had to. She felt inside of herself a feeling that I've got to investigate this. For some reason, I feel like I've got to investigate.
So I trusted that.
So she trusted her own feeling of wanting to investigate. She trusted herself enough to know that she could leave me anytime she wanted. She could decide to do whatever she wanted. She trusted at least that enough. And there are many times during her investigation that she did leave me as a result of that. And I think that is fantastic because she trusted herself enough to do that. Does that make sense? You see, oftentimes what we want is the reason why we want everything to know up front is because we don't trust ourselves enough to be able to make the right decision at the right time. And what I liked about what Mary did was that she trusted herself enough to know, well, if I feel like I want to leave him, I'll leave him. If I feel like I want to go back to him, I'll give him a call. She trusted herself enough through that process. And this is what we need to be prepared to do if we wish to investigate these issues with regard to relationship and regard to attractions. We need to trust ourselves enough to know that we can enter or exit at any time.
And this is why I stressed the lovingly, because you shouldn't emulate my behaviour apart from that one aspect, because I did it quite angrily at times. And the beauty is that now for a couple of years you know what you've been experiencing, your emotions, you know what it means to own your anger, all of those things. So you can actually, you know the principles of love, so you can explore lovingly. when I met AJ, I had no idea about love. So I was exploring, but I wasn't always very loving.
But I sort of even feel, though, even that was the case, I'm very glad that Mary had enough courage in her own soul and enough presence of her own mind to actually explore something, even though it at times may not have been lovingly in the way she did it. I'm very glad she took that choice and actually did it. Because without the engagement, you can never resolve even the unlovingness. Do you know what I mean? Without the engagement, it's very difficult to actually resolve. And so this is where I feel that it's very important to, even if at times you become unloving in the exploration, it's important to go, and Mary did this many times, and I feel Mary is a good example in terms of being humble about it, in the sense that Mary many times felt in a rage with me, recognised she was in a rage with me, went away for a while and worked through some of the issues of why she was so angry, and dealt with that without condemning her own feelings about the whole process. And I feel that's what many people need to do. Like, they need to investigate these things without condemnation of their own feelings of the process. Now, many others condemn your feelings, but the key is to forget about that and focus, and this is what I liked about what Mary did, is she had enough presence of her own character and mind and courage to investigate the process, knowing that she could do whatever she wanted to in this process and work her way through the particular issues involved. And I feel explore without the lovingly is better than actually shutting down the whole exploration process at all. To me, that is just a complete avoidance and denial of what's present when you do that. So you're far better to, while exploring lovingly is great, just the process of exploring is also, I feel, quite powerful.
Thank you.
And of course, to purify your soulmate desire, you're going to need to be humble. You're going to need to look at, well, what are my expectations? What addictions do I want a man to help? Like, what emotions do I want a man to help me avoid? And the more you look at that, the more your pure desire will emerge.
So ask yourself some basic questions now. What do I find sexy in a man? Write down a list of all the things you find sexy in a man. Write down all the things that you want in your ideal partner, because many of these things are based on emotional injuries that we've picked up through our life, in particular in our relationship with either one or both parents. In other words, we either absorb what our mother thinks is ideal, if we're connected to our mother, or we absorb, we see the ideal in our father, and therefore that's the kind of man we feel is the kind of man we want, minus the negative attributes. Generally, that's what we go for. So for example, if our father was tall, on the large side, he has emotions of arrogance towards other men, he has emotions of belittling other women, then we're going to be very attracted to that kind of a man unless we heal those emotions. In other words, we're going to be attracted to a younger version who's arrogant, who's got anger towards other men, and who belittles women. That's the man we're going to feel sexually attracted to as a result of those things. So the key thing is to make the list. Allow yourself to see the truth of what you find currently sexy and attractive. What do you find is the ideal? What's your ideal? Look at pictures of what you feel is ideal even. Look at the picture and then ask yourself, why am I feeling that particular person is ideal? What does that do inside of me that causes me to feel attracted to that? Why is that particularly attractive to me? And the problem with almost all of our attractions here on the planet is that we have idealised so much of our attractions, but not only that, we've done this other thing, and that is we are all seeking perfection. And to be frank, none of our soulmates are perfect. So if we're all seeking perfection and none of our soulmates are perfect, are we ever going to really know who our soulmate is while we're doing this? We need to get underneath those feelings of what's perfect and into the real reason why we believe that particular thing is perfect. So why do you believe a 6'3" man who's nice and slender and got a muscly body and everything, why do you believe he's perfect? there's got to be a reason. Does that make sense? Of that. Because the reality is a 5'10" man or a 5'3" man who's got an entirely different body may be your soulmate.
Yeah. Can I ask another question about in the soulmate relationship when you share truth? Like when you explained before about desires, love and truth. I don't know. For me, when I share, we've been very truthful from the beginning.
Yep.
And it's beautiful and triggering. And it's like, so I don't know how it works in the relationship about the truth thing.
You're saying a lot of contrary things, aren't you? It's beautiful but triggering.
I like it
when you
because
say triggering, you mean that it causes you to feel emotional and get angry and upset. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I like it because I can really say things, or he would say things. But then when he says sometimes, I don't like to hear it.
Okay, so you don't want to hear it, you're shut down, you're rejecting what he's saying and so forth, yep. My suggestion is, again, the same issue.
Yeah.
So if you were humble to all that process, you wouldn't go into a shut-down place, you wouldn't go into rejection.
Nina, when AJ and I first met, for some of the time we were split up, sometimes geographically and sometimes because I didn't want to be in a relationship with him. But he would send me these emails, long emails. You know, AJ can talk a lot, he can type a lot too. And he would send me these big long emails and I'd sit down and I'd read it and I'd read it and I'd read it and I'd read it and go, ah! And I couldn't respond, I was so angry. And then I'd go, I couldn't leave it because I knew he was saying the truth. And even if it was just the truth of what he felt.
It's a lot more bluntly that Mary felt that though.
Yeah.
Effort, he's right.
Yes.
is the
Damn
reason.
it, I'm saying I can't let it go, it's the truth. You know, and it was very compelling, the truth. So it confronted a lot of my injury.
Mind
and
you,
my
I didn't
addictions.
do that without Mary first inviting me to. So,
Absolutely. He didn't say... It
I
was
didn't
always in
send her
response.
unsolicited emails.
No.
I always sent her an email in response to her desire.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to hear from him, and then I'd hear from him, and then I'd hate it, and then I'd, like, have to
Then she'd
respond.
send me an angry
yeah.
response.
Yeah.
Like, and then I'd respond to her angry response, explaining the emotions involved, which made her even more angry. And then I wouldn't hear from her for a while again, yeah. And the more humility we have in terms of listening, the smoother the engagement becomes. Right? It's only tumultuous because we're not, one or both parties are not being humble. Right? So this is the thing we need to realise is that if any engagement with any person is tumultuous, it's usually because one or both of you are not being humble. And this particularly applies to anything regarding investigating or exploring the soulmate relationship. If it's tumultuous and causes lots of things to come up, then one or both of you are not being humble enough to feel your own stuff. Yeah.
And Nina, I often make this joke with AJ that we're having our relationship in reverse. Like some people are married for 30 years and their sex life is in ruins. They're hardly connected to each other. They don't talk. It's all lukewarm and everything. But when they first met, it was like daisy, honeymoon, fantastic. Well, sometimes I feel like we're like the flip side. The more we go on, the more romantic and beautiful it becomes. But when we started out, it was like, well, I had a lot of gripes from the past, and I wanted to, and there was a lot of lack of connection. Our sex life.
And I was frightened of her, really. I was just frightened of Mary, really. Yeah. There was just so much, like...
I was a bit frightened of me too, because I didn't understand the emotions.
Because Mary had never acted that way towards other men, you see. So she was a bit confused about why she felt all these things with myself. Yeah. But I was frightened because a lot of it was just because I could feel the anger and rage and I could understand it, but I couldn't... Mary wasn't at the time sometimes even open enough to talk about why she felt the way she felt, And so I didn't know how to handle a lot of it. Like, I was quite frightened, and sometimes it was a relief that she ran away for a while so I could so I could have a breather, like that's how it felt. And
I don't know if all soulmate relationships start that way though, but ours obviously had a lot of pretext.
In the first century, ours was similar, actually, when we first met. When we first met, we both felt, I knew who she was. Mary didn't have a concept of soulmates at the time, but but she felt quite a strong attraction to me. But within a very short period of time, she was bitterly angry with me as well. So, in a lot of ways,
I've been angry about that too, Nina. I'm always the bad guy.
So she was even angry about being angry with me. She was angry that, I'm never angry with her and she's always angry with me. What's going on? That kind of thing. And so, the key is be willing to explore at least. Be willing to explore, but also if you can be as humble as possible to what you're actually feeling.
I just think it's awesome to understand as much as you do about God, soulmates and emotion, and then to find your soulmate. I wish I knew that I'd reconnected to any of it, because it would have been a lot smoother.
Yeah.
Do you think it's better to tell him or just explore just myself and not say
you don't
anything?
know for certain, do you?
No.
So don't say anything you don't know for certain.
Okay.
But you can say to him, look, you might be right. Isn't he said to you, perhaps we're soulmates? Or?
Well, he never said, he asked me one day, he said, have you ever thought, he never said, but he didn't want to say, I feel we're soulmates. So he just said, have you ever thought we could be soulmates? I was like, because I had a thought before and I was like, no.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, no, never. And I
Okay.
lied because I had the same thought. And I was like,
Okay. So stop lying and start telling the truth. So, yes, now that you mention it, I don't want it to be true, but this is how I feel,
Okay.
You remember truth, desire and love are the three things that are going to help it grow if it's going to grow. And it's going to sort out very rapidly whether you're soulmates or not, actually, if you stay in truth, desire and love. So you're not going to open to your soulmate by lying, by misrepresenting the truth to them, right? So if you're not attracted to some part of him or her, then tell them. But also work through in humility why you feel that way.
And remember the love bit, hey?
Yeah.
You don't have to force it upon them. Just be yourself.
So if they say, do you like my body? You say, no. And, they'll have heard about that to feel, and you'll have to work out why you don't. And it could be partly because their body isn't being looked after by them, and that's why you don't like it. Or it might be that you just don't like that body type because you've yet to release the emotion about your dad. You want your dad's body type and not his, that kind of thing. So you see, if both are humble, then each will feel their own emotion about those particular things. Yeah?
Thank you so much.
Cool.
Well, let's have a break, shall we? We have a break, and maybe half an hour or so, and we'll get back on the subject.